There are at least 7 other gay bars within walking distance of Gossip Grill. That's a women's bar in San Diego.
From one bar to the next was like 15, 20 minutes.
But there used to be a better option than stumbling from one to the next on foot.
So we used to have this cart that would drive our guests from each bar safely. So if they wanted to bar hop within our bars, we would drive them around.
This is Elisha Pugel. Today, she's a bartender at Gossip Grill. But her first job in the neighborhood was driving the Moe's Mobile.
It was a 6-person, 9-person golf cart, basically, that just like had music blaring, streamers, flamingos decorated all over it, and just driving from like bar to bar. You know, I would stop at like each location, go in with a megaphone, like, all right, which one of you bitches is too drunk to drive? Get in here, we're gonna go to the next spot, or who's over this music? Let's go to the next bar, and like just kind of rotate everybody between all of our bars.
All of the stops on her route are part of Moe's Universe, a collection of LGBTQ+ bars and restaurants in San Diego.
So no matter what, we were all making money. So it's really a good business strategy.
Moe's Universe isn't technically a franchise. It's just an umbrella term. All of the establishments have some mutual owners and partners and share a similar kind of queer culture. The Moe's Mobile ran from 2009 until 2020 and offered Elisha a window into San Diego's queer community before she was old enough to bartend or go out herself.
You have the people who are just the life of the party, and they're asking you to turn up the music, and you're partying with them and having a great time.
Elisha has been on her own since high school.
I was 17 when my mom kicked me out for coming out of the closet.
At this point, Elisha had known for years she was interested in girls, but she knew she couldn't tell her mom.
There were like little red flags here and there of like, should I come out to my mom? I remember like being like 10 or 11 and asking her like, hey, like if I liked girls, like what would you do? Like, well, you wouldn't be my daughter anymore. Like, okay. Well, I'm just asking. I'm not going to say that.
But then, when she was 17, Elisha's mom came to pick her up from school and caught her smoking a cigarette.
And she like pulled up real fast. Get in the car. And I was like, oh shit. Just immediate sweats. I'm like, I am not going to sit in the front seat. I am sitting in the back seat. You are a scary Filipino woman. And I was in the back seat and she's just like, I can't believe you're smoking. You're a liar. What else are you hiding from me? And I don't know what little gremlin decided to wake up that morning and place itself within my body that I decided that was the time that I was going to tell her. I just threw my hands up in the air. I'm like, I eat pussy. And she's like, you're going to get out of my house. Pack your shit. Get out. And I was like, fine. And so we went home. I was packing my shit. And then my mom was like, oh, okay, so you're really leaving? I'm like, yeah, you told me to leave. So I'm leaving. Good. I don't want you in my house. I don't want that in my house. Okay. And then I went on my merry way. And like, not even 3 days later, she was just like, basically asking for me to come back. And then I told her, I was like, I'm still gay. And she was like, never mind.
And from that point on, Elisha had to take care of herself. She stayed with a friend at first, and then got a job at a bakery in Hillcrest. That's the name of San Diego's gayborhood, where you can find Gossip Grill and the rest of Moe's Universe. Elisha had always wanted to be a part of the community at Hillcrest.
What drew me to it was the fact that I went to several different high schools, and in any school I went to, I was the main person that was very out and proud about it, even if I got bullied for it or whatever. So I never really had like a sense of community growing up.
But around Hillcrest, she fits right in.
It's just so inclusive and welcoming. And when you meet people here, it's not like you're joining a clique. You meet one friend who becomes your family, and then they introduce you to the other part of the family who introduce you to more part of it. And then you're just, that sounds super corny, but you're just surrounded by love, and it's a beautiful thing.
So when she got a job offer to drive the Moe's Mobile, it was pretty much a no-brainer.
I'm 19 years old. I'm like living on my own. Of course I'm going to take another job and make more money.
Elisha had a blast driving the Moe's Mobile. But she dreamt of working elsewhere in Moe's Universe, at Gossip Grill. The only problem was you had to be 21 to bartend there.
I mean, I love my gay boys, and I love the boys, and I love them, but I wanted to be a gossip. Because of course I wanted to be more familiar, you know?
So as soon as she turned 21, Elisha decided to shoot her shot.
I don't even know if she wants me to tell the story, but I don't care. I'm going to tell it anyways.
She's talking about Moe Girton. That's the owner of Gossip Grill. And before you ask, no, Moe's Universe is not named after this Moe. She spells her name M-O-E, and the universe is just spelled M-O. It's actually short for homo. Homo's Universe. Very fitting. It's all just a very confusing coincidence. But back to Elisha's story.
I went in and my coworkers were telling me to like shoot for Gossip and like try to start working there instead of driving the Mobile. I went there on a night where I was out with my friends, so I was already really drunk, and I walked up to the bar, and it was not my cutest moment. I went up to the bar and I was like, no. Our old bartender at the time, Emily, turned around and was like, I'm not Mo, that's Mo. And in my defense, all of our bartenders had like the same haircut, like 4 of them. So then I went up to Mo and I was lit. And I was like, I want to work here. And Mo was like, okay, cool. See you at 10 o'clock in the morning. Be ready for an interview. And I was like, oh, shit.
But as promised, Elisha showed up the next day. Super hungover, but ready to work.
And Mo was just like, yeah, I just wanted to see if you'd show up. But yeah, you got the job. Like, I like within the company know like who you are. You know, you'll start as a host.
Elisha eventually worked her way up to bartender, but it took even longer for her to go full time there.
I used to have like 2-3 jobs at a time just so that like, because I like making money and like I like to keep busy.
Growing up without a lot of money, Elisha was always worried about financial stability and got into a habit of overworking herself. But Mo didn't like to see Elisha wear herself out like that.
I remember, I think I was talking to Mo about my schedule and my availability or whatever. And Mo was just like, girl, you still are working like 2-3 jobs? Like, why? And I'm like, because money. Mo, what other reason is there? All right. Like, what does it have to look like for you to not have 2-3 jobs? I'm like, full time and primary positions and hours. Okay, cool. We're going to make that happen. It'll take time, but we're going to make that happen. And like, I think it was like less than 6 months.
Back in 2015, Elisha needed a place to stay again. She had just broken up with an ex and was spending her nights couch surfing and sleeping in her car.
And I was basically homeless for a short period of time.
And again, Mo stepped in.
So she opened up her home to me and let me stay there. Worked it out so like I would dog sit so that I would have some place to sleep and to stay. I didn't ask for it. I wasn't like, sob storying to her. She just knew that I was struggling and just immediately was just like, this is an option for you. Like, my home is your home.
And for Elisha, this was more than just a place to crash. It was incredibly comforting to know someone was looking out for her.
Even to this day, like I've been living in my spot for like 3-4 years now, and it's still like a lingering fear of like not having a roof over my head, even if I am financially stable. So to have somebody put your pride and shame aside and be like, I love you, your family, let me help you. And that's how Mo just is. That's how Mo always is.
This is Cruising, a podcast about the last lesbian bars in the U.S. My name is Sarah Gabrielli, and I'm traveling to each one of them with my 2 friends and chosen family. This is stop number 10, Gossip Grill. Moe Girton was working as a retail manager when she got her start in queer nightlife. The year was 2000.
I picked up a side job, a second job, kind of a fun job.
Mo is small and sun-kissed, with an ash blonde, spiky mohawk. She normally dresses crisp and classy. Think button-downs, blazers, and bow ties. Back in 2000, Mo was hired as a coat check / security guard at The Flame, an iconic San Diego lesbian nightclub, which closed back in 2015.
But I tried to quit my first day, and it just wasn't Wasn't a fit for me. I was doing security, and my security was just boring.
So at the end of her first shift, Moe was getting ready to give notice and quit.
And this manager walked out with the absolute perfect frosted mullet. Granted, it was 2000. It's a little outdated, but it was fabulous. And she hit me on the arm and said, "You look like a barback. You want a barback?" I'm like, "Sure." And she literally took me in at that moment as I was 5 feet away from letting my manager know, and took me in and trained me to barback, and it changed the whole course of my life.
Moe quickly made her way up the ladder at the Flame. From barback to bartender to management, it all came naturally to her. So of course, this wasn't a side gig for long.
I was making more money as a bartender than as a retail manager. So I just kind of made that transition into full-time working at the bar.
But Moe took her craft a step further than even the best of bartenders. She taught herself flair bartending.
Flipping bottles, juggling, blowing fire, balancing martinis on my head, pouring, and, just little things. And they're like, whoa! So sticking Red Bull cans to your hand, and it's just all sorts of little fun little tricks and stuff.
Moe kind of had to learn all these tricks to compete with one of her fellow bartenders who was trying to take her business.
I did that to set myself apart from her. She used to try to give me a really small section. She'd take half the bar, and she'd only want to give me a few seats. So I had to learn how to pivot in that. And in doing that, I really created my own clientele, and it started exploding and started outringing everyone in the bar.
In 2004, the Flame was sold to a developer. But fortunately for Moe, she had caught the attention of Chris Shaw and Doug Snyder. Chris and Doug were actually the original owners of the Flame, back when it first opened. And now, the two men were opening LGBTQ-friendly bars and restaurants in Hillcrest. They had one spot already, Hamburger Mary's, and were opening a new restaurant called Baja Betty's. Moe applied to be a part of their opening crew, and she got the job. And then,
I accidentally turned Betty's into a women's bar by accident.
How did Moe accidentally turn Baja Betty's into a women's bar?
Well, at the time, both women's bars had closed down, both lesbian bars. The Flame sold, and then 6 Degrees had closed, I think 6 months later or something like that. So there was nowhere to go for women. But they all knew me as being, I was one of the only bartenders in the Flame that was still in an active bartending role, and I had my clientele.
And her clientele, made up of mostly queer women, followed her to Baja Betty's.
Oh my God, I'm going to date myself. This is back to MySpace days. So it's, hey, I'm working tonight. Here's my special cocktail for the night, whatever. And really use that as a platform to build my business. And so little by little, all the women started coming in to see me, and the restaurant would be empty, but my bar would always be full.
But the gay men around Hillcrest started to notice.
And all the boys started being like, I don't really want to go to Betty's. It's all lesbians all the time. Back then, it was still kind of segregated. So I think they were a little turned off at the time. But it worked out in my benefit.
In fact, one of Moe's business partners showed up while we were talking to Moe.
Come here, Savon. Pop in real quick. This is the guy that hired me at Baja Betty's, who's now my business partner, and we just opened this location up together.
I had to get rid of her Baja Betty. She turned into a lesbian bar. No, it wasn't a bad thing. She took the tools and ran with it, but when our guests started saying, "Oh, it's a lesbian bar now," I'm like, "No, it's not. Moe just knows how to run a business." So that's when we were like, okay, let's open a new place for Moe.
As Moe said, it all definitely worked out in her favor. That's how she ended up with Gossip.
Stefan and Chris Shaw were like, we got to get Moe a restaurant. We've got to do this. So they offered me to open a lesbian bar. We went ahead and opened that space. And they kind of gave me full reins to, as far as concept and design.
So Gossip Grill officially opened in 2009. From the beginning, Moe wanted to move away from the term lesbian bar. She just calls her bar a women's bar.
You don't want to box yourself in too small and survive. This is why, in my opinion, why lesbian bars aren't surviving. A lot of women don't identify as lesbian anymore. So being a women's bar is the giant umbrella, and underneath women's bar is lesbian, gay, straight, bi, trans, pans, asexual, whatever you want to, whatever. Anybody that identifies with the woman in them just a little bit, this bar is for you. So boxing it in just to a lesbian bar just really cut out. It cut out too much of the population.
For Gossip, being a women's bar is more than just a title. From the marketing to the drink menu, Moe has made the bar a space for women.
There's a lot of subtle things that we do that keep it a women's bar. We have a whole bunch of pictures, feminist women, and just awesome photos of women. There's no cis male anywhere up there. And I try to keep cis male off my ads as best as possible. It's always women. All the drink names are named after women. All the food items are referenced to women. My staff is majority women, but of course we play nice with everyone.
But Moe's not trying to be exclusionary. She's just celebrating that bit of woman in people, as she explained. Moe does have her share of male-identifying folks on staff, and of course welcomes anyone into the bar. Well, within reason.
We have a sign on the door that says, we don't care if you have a dick, just don't be a dick. You know, this is a safe space for women. Please be respectful of where you're at. There is a lot of playground rules everywhere. Above the urinals, there's playground rules that say, please don't gawk and stare at the ladies. It's rude. You know, don't be a creepy McCreeperson. No one likes a creep. You know, just kind of these like little guidelines for straight men that come in, and we try to guide them in a way like, listen, dude, this is the one space we have in all of Southern California right now for us to be in a safe space. Be respectful.
Just as Moe says, the decor at Gossip Grill reflects their mission to create a safe space for women. A neon sign reads, "Welcome home," the bar's motto, and casts a pinkish-purple glow around the whole space. Pride flags hang throughout the patio and the dance floor. The new progress flag, the trans flag, the bi flag, the pan flag, the non-binary flag, and many more. Out front, there's a new patio along the sidewalk. They call it the Flamingo Lounge because it's decorated with flamingo lawn ornaments. Inside, the main bar area doubles as another big open patio. So there isn't an actual door when you first walk in, just a big metal gate and then the host stand. The ceiling over the bar is made up of a few big umbrellas draped with string lights. There's a fire pit and bar tables where people can sit and order from their menu of elevated pub food. In the next room, a disco ball glimmers above the dance floor. And in the VIP area, there's a second disco ball. Or rather, half of one.
There's a crazy story behind this. It's actually Bette Midler's disco ball from Caesar's Palace. So she used to come down on that during her shows. Anyway, so we have this disco ball up there, and it's kind of a shrine for people we've lost in our community. Unfortunately, suicide is at a pretty high rate with the trans community. We've lost a lot of our own, and we have invited numerous guests to put their loved ones, whoever they want, can be in the disco ball. So they're always dancing. They're always a part of our lives.
But back downstairs on the patio, I met two longtime Gossip Grill regulars.
Hi, Sarah. I'm Lisa.
Lisa and Rudy sat at a table just off to the right of the bar when you first walk in. Rudy wore a Hawaiian-type shirt with flames on it. Lisa was in all black with red cat-eye glasses. She has short purple hair and dark purple lipstick, almost black. They had a big pitcher of iced tea on the table in front of them, which they left behind to save their spot, while the three of us stepped outside to the Flamingo Lounge.
We basically are here a lot. We come in 2 or 3 times a week.
It can be 4 times a week. Usually 2 or 3. I mean, we're older. At a certain level of time, the music's a little too loud for us old people. And it's like, okay, we've had our fun. It's time to go.
The first voice you heard was Rudy, and the second one was Lisa. The pair runs the San Diego Kings Club, a group of drag performers that put on a monthly show at Gossip. Rudy is an original member of the group. It all started 21 years ago with a bartender at The Flame, the lesbian bar where Moe started bartending.
The bartender, Kelly, or Chess Rockwell, had started performing as a drag king, so female performing as male, and it just kind of started that she wanted to have more women-forward entertainment.
All the contests and all the performing back then were drag queens, and she would perform and decided that there needed to be an outlet. So she started a weekly contest every Wednesday at the Flame.
The show was called Drag It Out, and the group that put it on became known as the San Diego Kings Club. It wasn't until 2017 that the Kings Club started performing at Gossip Grill, and that's where they've been ever since.
And we came and we talked to Moe, and she goes, you know what? It's time we have the Kings at the women's bar, at the women's only bar. So
Rudy had never tried drag before when he first discovered the Kings Club back at the Flame. That's where he got his start.
I showed up at the contest when it first started, like week 1, week 2, and I really, really wanted to perform. And I'm like, okay, have no singing talent, have no professional training, but I really, really want to do this. And for a couple weeks, I kept going and watching it. And my sister got breast cancer, and I shaved my head. And when I shaved my head, I went, well, if I can walk around like this, I can do that. And that's how I became a drag king.
And Rudy's drag character?
Rudy Ramrod.
how would you describe your character?
Well, I do a lot of different things, so I don't really think I have it. I'm more of a heavy metal and rock, but I've been around for 21 years, so I've done a little bit, but I'm more of the rock person. Absolutely.
A little bit of the swagger, but, you know, I'm the old man. I've been around the block, and you're not going to take me down a peg, but not in the cocky sense, in a confident sense.
Lisa is a drag performer, too. She's a bio queen, an AFAB drag queen.
Currently, it's Lisa Ray Ramrod. That's what I go by. Obviously, I'm the queen to the king. And I am anywhere from the timid, cute, and adorable to the I'm the biatch and don't mess with me. And I will key your car if you break up with me.
She does that very well. She does a big range. There'll be one number where she looks like she, a breeze could blow her, to the next where, like, if you look at me wrong, I will cut you.
Rudy and Lisa do a lot of duets together. Even in drag, their characters are partners.
Usually drag kings, they're not very tall. And when you have a 6-foot queen in heels and hair, it turns into 7 feet. And we're still trying to create the illusion, the masculine illusion. So here I am, 5'1", a very, very femme drag queen, and it helps create the illusion with the king and the queen. And then our other 2 drag queens are similarly not as tall. We're all about 5'1" to 5'6", 7".
In addition to Lisa Ramrod, and the Lisa who sat in front of me, she has another persona too, Sister Devlin Angels.
Well, I'm also a Sister of Perpetual Indulgence. We kind of did say that. I am a Sister of Perpetual Indulgence.
She dropped that nugget on me towards the end of our interview.
We are considered nuns of the LGBTQ community. We take vows. We promise to take care of everyone around us.
I obviously wanted to learn everything there was to know about the sisters. So I connected with Lisa later over the phone.
It's been a while.
I know.
If you're not exactly sure what the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence is, you might have still seen them around at Pride or other LGBTQ plus events. The sisters all wear some form of long headpiece, and some of them wear white wimples around their necks. But their resemblance to traditional nuns pretty much stops there.
Most of the time when people see sisters, they see the veils, they see the white face. That's kind of the telltale of a Sister of Perpetual Indulgence.
They all wear full faces of white makeup, but each sister embellishes that with their own flair. Glitter, colored eyeliner, chunky jewelry, feather boas, corsets, and so on.
We kind of look like really fancy clowns. I know people are going to cringe when they hear that, but there's no other way to describe it. So imagine a drag queen, but in whiteface with lashes and jewels and gems, jewelry and shiny and sparkly and bearded, mustaches. They're all walks of life, really. But that's pretty much the standard is the white face, the veils, the headpieces.
And the type of headdress varies from house to house. Each chapter of Sisters across the country has a shape specific to them.
San Francisco has what they call the ear boobs, which is essentially they have a bra on their head, but it's We have what's called a lunch box, because if you look at ours, it's like a little lunch bag, and we have veils off of it.
Here's a 1991 clip of Sister Explosion on the BBC. She's explaining how they're able to use their costumes for social justice.
Well, it's a theatrical expression. We use theater to educate, and I think nuns come down the tradition of the court jester, the clown, the mime, and we use theatrics to get people's attention, and then we slip the very serious message to them. Behind the habit is the serious logical argument. This is just the honey to attract, because it does get attention. There's no way when we walk down the street or approach people that they're not going to take notice of it.
A nun costume is kind of what started it all for the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. It was 1979.
There was a gentleman who actually was in Iowa, Kenneth Brunch, who would later become vicious, power-hungry bitch. She became one of our founders. And what she did is she had gone to an Iowa convent and asked the sisters if she could have some of the deceased nuns' habits so they could do the sound of music. They had every intention of it.
For the record, Lisa isn't insulting Kenneth Brunch by calling her a vicious, power-hungry bee.
That was her name, Sister Vicious Power Hungry Bitch. That was her first sister name. We now know her as Grandma Vishnu.
I literally thought that you were saying, like, oh, this person ended up being a power hungry bitch.
No.
Okay.
Her name was Sister. We had Sister Missionary Position.
Sister Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year.
Sister Mary Daisy Chain.
Sister Miriam Bethlehem.
Sister Joy of Many Men.
Sister Mary Prophylactica.
Sister Mary Doris Fitton Defarge.
Well, Sister Boom Boom is really Sister Rose of the Bloody Stains of the Sacred Robes of Jesus. But that's okay, you can call me Boom Boom.
All the sisters have an invented name, kind of like a drag name. Those were just a few from back in the 80s and 90s. Remember, Lisa's is Devlin Angels.
We all have our demons and we all have our angels. Sometimes you have to cuddle with those demons. You know, sometimes you have to make friends with your devil to be your own angel. And so Devlin Angels, that's where that came from.
But anyways, Kenneth brings the nun habits back to San Francisco. But they never end up in a production of The Sound of Music. Instead, on Easter Sunday, 1979,
they decided, yeah, it'd be fun. Let's put on these nun habits. I have them. Let's go to the Castro.
I'll let Sister Vicious tell you the rest. Here she is talking to ITL Media back in 2009.
We were bored, and I had brought some Catholic nuns' habits from Iowa with me. We threw them on, we went out into the community, and the reaction was so strong that we decided to form a social activism, social service organization in San Francisco. We realized right away that the nun's habit contains a lot of social stigmas all in one. Gender issues, gender identity issues, and religious bigotry issues. So the habit to us is like a lightning bolt.
I think she means like a lightning rod, to get people to pay attention to them. But before the sisters were all about social justice, they were about theatrics. Here's Lisa again.
So there for a while it was more of a street theater. It was more of a guerrilla art performance. They have stories of, you'd see a VW van pull out. All these nuns would come out on roller skates and water guns, do all this crazy stuff, jump back in the van and drive off.
Some people say the whiteface started with just one of the nuns.
If you ask her, she liked how the whiteface looked in photography and on video. And then, of course, as rumors get started, some people were saying it's because she didn't want any of her clients to know who she was. And that kind of started the whole whiteface.
At first, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence stuck to these fun performances.
And then 1980s hit. And our founder, one of them, there was four main ones. He was actually the first one to actually start showing signs of this sickness, whatever that was. We now know it was a gay cancer. Now we know it as AIDS.
And the sisters thought there must be something they could do to help people.
People were not visiting family members in the hospital. Nobody would go and sit. Nobody was claiming the bodies. Nobody was doing anything for anybody at the time. And they're like, you know what? I think we could do something. So they would start sitting with people in the hospitals.
Like the rest of the world, the sisters didn't know how HIV/AIDS was transmitted at first, but they exposed themselves to patients anyway.
And they would go in and they would deliver, almost a last rites, a blessing, and sit with them because nobody else would.
The virus was first connected to sexual transmission in June of 1982. And that same month, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence published the first pamphlet on safer sex. It was called Playfair.
It's very adorable. I've seen one in person, so I know what they look like. But it basically is you see these little nuns, these little bearded nuns teaching you how to put on a condom and how to be safe.
They would pass out these pamphlets on the street.
We're the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. We're passing out AIDS awareness information. It's now World AIDS Week. December 1st is World AIDS Day.
Playfair was groundbreaking in many ways. It was written by and for gay men, and it used sex-positive language rather than shame.
And then they decided, okay, we're going to start raising funds for this.
We did the very first AIDS pamphlet, this is it, anywhere in the world in 1980. We did the very first AIDS benefit anywhere in the world in 1980, before AIDS was even, the acronym was even conceived.
In fact, the first AIDS patient in the world to go public was a boy named Bobby Campbell, who called himself the AIDS poster boy, and Time magazine put his face on the cover of Time. He was Sister Florence Nightmare, RN. And the sisters have always been on that very cutting edge with AIDS.
But still, people were getting sick and dying rapidly, including the sisters.
Oh, it was 83 to 85. They were 20 strong, and by 85, it was like 6.
Around this time, the first woman joined the sisters.
In 1984. Mysteria of the Broken Hymen.
That was her nun name.
And she was one of the lesbians that's sitting in the hospitals taking care of her brothers. And it started out gay men. That's what most people know it as. So when you see a cisgender female, they're kind of like, they let girls in? Yes, they let girls in. They let everybody in. All colors, shapes, sizes, identity.
Today, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence have 70 houses in the U.S. and chapters in a total of 14 countries. They're actually a charity, and they continue to fundraise and hold events for all kinds of causes.
Before the pandemic, God, we were probably out 10, 12 days a month doing something, doing a fundraiser, doing something, sometimes just going out, raffle tickets, Jell-O shots, presents, here, there, yonder.
But primarily, their job is to just show up and listen. They'll go out in a group, to a gay bar or a park, anywhere really, and offer any sort of emotional support that people want from them.
Some houses, like ours, we call it a manifestation of presence. So basically, we are manifesting our joy, and we are just here.
Which is why you might have seen them at Pride events.
But I remember the first time I ever did Pride with the sisters. And I remember our Pride parade is called the Rainbow Mile. And it is a mile. It is a long one. But I remember us just turning and going onto the street, and as soon as somebody said the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence.
Let's put our hands together for the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence!
The crowd you would have thought we were at a concert. And it was just like, okay, they need to see us. And I started to get that, and I wasn't even in makeup at that point, but I saw the power these individuals had.
Their mission has remained the same since the 80s.
to promulgate universal joy and to expiate stigmatic guilt. Basically to get rid of guilt and spread love.
Lisa's personal ministry is related to helping folks with invisible illnesses. People like her.
I mean, I hit the gene pool lottery, but just not the good version. You know, I wouldn't have mind the, 6 foot long legs, blonde, built like a brick house. I mean, I'm built like a brick house. It's just short and stubby.
Lisa lives with Crohn's disease, fibromyalgia, and a rare genetic bone disease called osteogenesis imperfecta, or OI.
I'm one of 50,000 in the United States. Basically, that means I have brittle bones. If I fall, I will probably break. My mom had it. I have an aunt who has it. I have an uncle who has it. And my grandmother, my mom's mother, had it. It runs in our family. I have actually the most common and the most mild form of it. This is how rare it is. I actually did not meet somebody with my bone disease until I was in my late 30s that I wasn't related to.
She was diagnosed at 9 months old.
Because I was couch walking, as kids do, and I sat down, broke my first bone. So we went through all that shenanigans.
Her condition massively impacted her childhood.
I can't climb, no climbing, no running, no jumping, no sports. Because I was the only kid, obviously, in my hometown, the school districts are just very set in their ways, and I grew up in the 80s, so it's like all of us had to attend gym. I became very depressed because I can't do what the other kids did. I have memories of, the kids would find out I had a disease. Well, you don't want to get near her because you may catch it. That's not how this works, but okay. Kids are cruel.
Lisa identifies as pansexual. And in high school, she started seeing this guy.
Oh, he was a bit of a bad boy. For some reason, we love bad beings. I don't know what it is. We love those bad girls and boys. It just happens.
And then?
I found out I was pregnant at 17 and I had her at 18. We found out I was pregnant in December. And then we got married in March of 95. And then she was born in July. And then we were married 15 years.
Although OI is genetic, Lisa's daughter doesn't have it.
I think it was just kind of one of those, okay, we're going to wait and see. Because if I panic and I get upset, that's not good. That's not good for me. And it's not good for the baby. So all my scans were showing good. Her bones looked good. So there really wasn't any concern.
Lisa's husband at the time was in the military. In 2006, they moved to San Diego because he was stationed there on one of the ships on 32nd Street. They were together 15 years, but the relationship was abusive.
I think a lot of it is the emotional and verbal abuse. I didn't have an option. I think it was kind of the classic, well, you're not a fit mother. I'll take your daughter. I'll do this and this and this. And it was like, okay. And then it was like, 1 minute he'd be all lovey-dovey and everything's great. And then the next minute it wasn't. And,
Finally, in 2010, they divorced.
Thankfully, and ironically, he was actually the one that asked for a divorce. He got stationed in Guantanamo Bay, met his future second wife.
But at that point, San Diego was Lisa's home.
And he left, I stayed because I had a job, I had friends, I had a life.
During these last years of her marriage, Lisa had started dealing with additional health issues. In 2006, she found a doctor who was able to give her a diagnosis.
And she's like, you have Crohn's, and you have one of the worst cases I have ever seen. You've probably had this your entire life. And I was talking to my mom, and she goes, I took you to the ER many times with stomach issues, and they just said it was gas as a kid.
But just because she had a diagnosis didn't mean her problems were over.
I've always had problems with my Crohn's. Always. It just was never, I never could get it under control.
And then in February of 2013,
February 3rd to be exact, which is my birthday, I went into the hospital. And I had a couple of rounds in the ER, so they would just give me antibiotics and send me home. But when I went in February, it was a good sized abscess. So they're like, okay, well, we'll keep you here. We'll try to get the abscess to drain, and then you'll be fine. And it wouldn't drain. And we're talking like 6 weeks in the hospital.
She finally went into colon surgery in mid-March.
And I honestly was so sick. I actually don't remember them talking about giving me a bag. I don't remember them talking about the surgery at all. I was so sick.
Luckily, Lisa had years of experience rolling with the punches.
And I was like, okay, we have a bag. Let's go. Let's, rock and roll. I think because I was a disabled child and I had a disability growing up, so this was just something like, okay, put a cast on it. Let's go. That's really much how I was raised. It's like, okay, next. And so with the bag, it was like, okay, let's go. What are we doing? Where are we going? How do we do this? How do we make this work?
But an ostomy bag is still a huge life adjustment, even for Lisa.
I mean, I literally have an incision from underneath my breastbone to my pelvic bone. Like, we're talking, they did some serious rearranging. This bag sits on me 24/7. So you have to learn how to take care of your skin. You have to learn what you can eat, what you can't eat. That first, 2 weeks, you're on a very, very, very bland diet, and you're eating all these itty bitty little meals, and your bag leaks. I mean, how do you work on that? How do you go in public for longer than 10 minutes without fearing it's going to explode? It was a learning curve.
During her stay at the hospital, Lisa had discovered the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. She found them on a friend's Facebook page.
And I kind of stalked them a little. And during that time, I had what else are you doing 6 weeks in the hospital? And I started doing more research about the sisters and talking to my friend. And I just really kept going back, okay, this is something I'm really interested in.
And now that she was recovering, Lisa hadn't forgotten about the sisters.
I kind of promised myself, this was a near-death experience. It's kind of one of those, let's give it a second chance. This is a time you can really do some good. So I told my friend I want to join the sisters.
There are 4 stages in becoming a fully professed sister.
We very much kind of go on trend with the Catholic nun matriculation as you become a nun. So it's aspirant, postulant, novice, fully professed. What you do is you go to a meeting and introduce yourself. And I'm like, okay. And I did. At the time, it was held at our LGBT center.
That's the first step. You go to a meeting and you write a letter stating you want to join.
I didn't have a pencil. I only had a lip liner. And I wrote on a piece of paper, I want to join. That was literally my first letter. I want to join, in lip liner. And they even still have it in the archives, which cracks me up. I'm like, oh dear.
At this stage, you're an aspirant or a volunteer, and you have to spend time getting to know the sisters and the organization.
And I just started hanging out with them. I started, just getting to know them, which is, now that I know that, is all part of the process. You find out what they're all about.
To get to the next stage, you write another letter.
I'm like, yeah, I really want to do this. So I put in my letter, and I basically talked about, this is why I want to join. This is why I think this is a good fit for me. And then the group as a collective decides if they think I'm going to be a good fit. So you kind of go into this probationary stage, but we call it postulancy.
As a postulate, you don't yet have a veil.
We don't yet speak for the house, because sometimes people will get in the makeup and they'll, start working with us and start doing things. And then they realize, wow, I love what you all do, but I just don't know if I could do that.
Because often the work is heavy.
It's not easy. We have everything from people telling us they got a promotion, they got a puppy, they came out, to I don't want to do this anymore. Or I was, verbally assaulted, or, the good, bad, and the ugly. And some people, it weighs on you. it weighs on you. So we want to make sure that they understand what we're doing and to be able to, yes, be that shoulder, but also know that at the end of the day, you can take off the makeup and take a moment.
But those that do want to continue on the process can move on to the next step, novice.
Again, you write the letter.
And from there, you write another letter to become a fully professed sister.
That was November 26th of 2014. I got down on my knees. I looked in the mirror.
As a member in the order.
I promised to take care of my sisters and my community and myself, even when it wasn't easy.
Public service.
Dedicate myself to public service.
Social activism. And spiritual enlightenment.
And in turn, the sisters took care of Lisa as well.
I needed the sisters more than they needed me. You know, when you have something stuck to your stomach, 365, 24/7, a lot of people see it as dirty. And I remember the first time we were at another friend's house and we're in the beautiful pool and she's like, get in the water. And I'm like, I don't, my bag. And she's like, oh, just shut up and get in the water. Nobody cares. You'll be fine. And I went, oh. And that was like the first time I'd ever exposed my stomach to anybody. Like everybody knew I had it, but nobody saw it. And I went, okay. Now I'm like, it's like boobs. If you haven't seen them by now, most people have a butt hole. Mine just happens to be on the front. It's fine.
When I say Lisa's ministry is the invisible illness, what I mean is that this is a personal mission she holds close to her while acting as a sister. On this mission, she's met many other people with ostomy bags and tried to help them get through it.
I always tell people, I will talk shit with anybody. I don't care where it comes from, we'll just talk about it, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It does suck, and I'm open about that. I have my good days, and I have my bad days, and I try to make sure that I'm there, that people know that, hey, I got you. Or I may not know exactly that, but I'm here.
Within the sisters, they have nun moms, kind of like drag moms. Lisa's nun mom actually doubles as her drag mom. That's how she first started doing drag, and how she first met Rudy.
I was stage managing her show, which was Vogue Decadence, and the San Diego Kings Club was Saturday. And so we were cross-promoting at the time, and that's how I met Rudy, because Rudy had been cross-promoting the Kings.
It was 2013. Vogue Decadence happened every Friday, and Kings Club happened every Saturday.
I was going to these shows. It was the next night. And my best friend was performing.
Her best friend is her nun/drag mom.
So that was kind of my in. And then so I slowly kind of started putting myself in the way. Like every time you turn around, I was there.
Yeah, she was.
Rudy popped back on the call to talk about this part.
Yeah, I kind of like weaseled my way. I tried to weasel my way into the thing.
And one August Saturday night, Rudy took the bait.
He's like, you know what? You have been such a help. Please be my stage manager. I'm like, great. So I went home that night. I sent my phone number. And this one texts me that Sunday and goes, did I promise you something and did you bite me? Well, you wanted me to be your stage manager, so here's my number, and I don't think I bit you. I'm not tall enough.
So what happened was after she left my show, I went somewhere else to go out and drink and hang out. And the next day I saw her phone number, and I'm like, I know I talked to her about something, but I couldn't remember what. I thought it was kind of funny. And then somebody bit me in the shoulder, and I don't
We
know.
still don't know who. It wasn't me.
But regardless of who bit Rudy on Saturday, on Sunday, Lisa and Rudy were making plans to meet up.
I go, what are you doing? And she goes, I'm going to an event, Sisters pool party. I'm like, oh. And she goes, where are you going to go? I don't have any plans. In fact, my laundry's done, so I'm free. And she goes, well, if you want, you can come to this event. And I went, I don't know. But we went back and forth. I ended up going.
I was like, well, I'm rocking a bikini, if you want to come.
So I'm like, okay. So I showed up.
And waited. And of course the sisters they are like cats. Have you ever tried to herd cats? And he keeps texting me, when you guys getting here? I was like, I promise we'll be there. I promise. So we finally get there. So we start talking, and then we ended up spending the rest of the day together with my sisters. Ended up kissing that night. Yeah, that Monday I was like, I had a really great time. He's like, yeah, I did too. And I'm like, well, if you ever want to do it again, let me know. And I just get win, just say win in big letters across my phone. I was like, okay. So August 19th is the first official date.
Yeah. August 19th.
This past August, Lisa and Rudy celebrated their 8-year anniversary. They're happily partnered, living together, and still performing duets every month at Gossip. Or, like tonight, just stopping by for a few drinks. No costumes or alter egos.
In fact, Gossip is actually what we consider one of our sanctuaries.
A sanctuary for the sisters, she means.
Because it is a place that everyone feels loved and safe, and you could walk in and you're home. Like, they take welcome home very seriously.
That's basically what she means by sanctuary, that the sisters have deemed it a safe and welcoming space. And as we've heard at so many other bars, Moe says Gossip is a home for lots of people. This is where they come when they have nowhere else to go.
Whenever something happens, they come to us. Like after the shooting in Orlando, no one knew what to do. So they come home. I used to always tell the story of the Great Blackout. You remember the blackout in 2000?
In 2011, the Great Blackout wiped out power throughout Southern California, in addition to parts of Mexico and Arizona. It was the largest power failure in California history.
And nobody knew what to do. So everyone just started showing up to Gossip. Lights went out. We don't close no matter what. It doesn't matter what is going on. We will stay open, except for COVID. But, no matter what, we stay open. So the blackout happened. We had everyone download the flashlight app on the phone, because this was before flashlights came on your phone. And we put out candles. Luckily, we know a lot of our clientele, and we ran IOUs.
So they kept serving people. The soda guns wouldn't work, but luckily, Moe had a good relationship with the 7-Eleven next door.
Because I literally knocked on the door, and he opened it up for me. I'm like, wait, I need sodas. Like, I have no guns right now. Can I buy something? He's like, my POS is down. He's like, just take whatever you need. I'll run you a tab and come in tomorrow. And that's exactly what happened. So I just grabbed what I need, and I brought back what I didn't the next day, and just take care of each other.
As the night went on, more and more people showed up at Gossip Grill.
And we just continued to stay open and operate, and we were getting busier and busier and busier, and we're like, what is going on? Next thing you know, we had a line down the street. We were at full capacity with a line down the street, and everyone just kept saying, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what was going on, so I just came home. I knew you would be here because I know you never close, and I just didn't know where to go. And then all of a sudden, this big dually truck pulls up, honks its horn, and starts throwing these cords over, and I go out, and I'm like, what is going on? Chris Shaw, my business partner, had found someone with a generator and asked him to come down and hook up to his truck. And so then we started plugging in. We plugged in the lights. We plugged in a DJ booth. And we plugged in the gun system. And we ended up operating. We didn't have a POS, but we had some coolers, some lights, and a DJ booth. It was incredible. It was magical. It was one of the best nights ever.
And Gossip Grill would keep recreating this magic for years to come.
It went so well that people kept asking me to repeat it. So for years, on the same date, we'd just turn out all the lights and have another blackout party. Because it was just so much fun. It was awesome. We're home, and we have the big neon sign that says, welcome home, beautiful. That's us. We're home. It gets me all like teary-eyed, but...
Cruising is reported and produced by Rachel Karp, Jen McGinity, and me, Sarah Gabrielli. Our theme song is by Joey Freeman. Special thanks this week to Lisa, Rudy, Moe, Elisha, and Lynn. Follow us along on our road trip and see pictures at our website, cruisingpod.com, or follow us on social media at cruisingpod. If you like cruising, want to support us, and get access to more content, then join our Patreon at patreon.com/cruisingpod. You can listen to Cruising wherever you get your podcasts.